In 1985, a 30-year-old man was fired from the company he founded himself. The board he handpicked voted him out. He walked out of his own headquarters, humiliated, with no idea what to do next. That man's name was Steve Jobs, and what happened after this moment would become one of the greatest comeback stories in business history. Stephen Paul Jobs was born in San Francisco in 1955. His biological parents were unmarried graduate students, and they made the difficult decision to give him up for adoption. He was raised by Paul and Clara Jobs, a working-class couple in California who promised his birth mother they would give him a loving home and a good education. From an early age, Jobs showed a curious and rebellious streak. He wasn't particularly interested in traditional schooling, but he had a deep fascination with electronics, thanks in part to his adoptive father, who taught him how to take apart and rebuild machines in their garage. After high school, Jobs enrolled at Reed College, a small liberal arts school in Oregon, but within 6 months, he dropped out. He later explained that he didn't see the value in spending his parents' hard-earned savings on classes that didn't interest him. Instead of leaving campus entirely, Jobs kept dropping in on classes that fascinated him, including one on calligraphy. He learned about typefaces, spacing, and the art of beautiful typography. At the time, it seemed like a useless skill with no practical application. Years later, this exact knowledge would shape the way fonts looked on the very first Macintosh computer. During this period of his life, Jobs also traveled to India, searching for spiritual meaning. He explored Buddhism, practiced meditation, and returned to the United States with a mindset that would influence his approach to design and business for the rest of his life. A belief in simplicity, focus, and intuition. Back in California, Jobs took a job at the video game company Atari. It was here that his friendship with a brilliant engineer named Steve Wozniak deepened, a friendship that would soon change the world of technology forever. Steve Wozniak had built a personal computer circuit board in his spare time, mostly just to show off to his friends in a hobbyist computer club. But Jobs saw something Wozniak didn't. He saw a business. In 1976, the two of them, along with a third partner, founded Apple Computer in the Jobs family garage. To raise the initial funding, Jobs sold his Volkswagen van, and Wozniak sold his prized calculator. Their first product, the Apple I, was a modest success among hobbyists, but it was the Apple II, launched in 1977, that truly put the company on the map. It was one of the first personal computers designed for everyday people, not just engineers, and it became a massive commercial success. By 1984, Apple had grown into a serious technology company, and Jobs unveiled his most ambitious project yet, the Macintosh. Its launch was marked by a now legendary television commercial that aired during the Super Bowl, portraying Apple as a rebellious force, challenging the dominance of the computing establishment. As Apple grew larger, Jobs brought in an experienced executive, John Scully, to help run the company as CEO, while Jobs continued to lead product development. At the time, it seemed like the perfect partnership. It would not stay that way for long. Tensions between Jobs and Scully grew as the company's performance began to fluctuate. Jobs was known for his intensity, his perfectionism, and his difficult management style. Disagreements over strategy and leadership eventually escalated into a full power struggle. In 1985, the board of directors sided with Scully. Steve Jobs, the man who had built Apple from nothing, was stripped of his responsibilities and pushed out of the company entirely. Jobs later described this period as one of the most painful experiences of his life. He had lost the thing he'd built his entire identity around, and he had lost it publicly, in front of the entire world. But instead of giving up, Jobs started over. He founded a new computer company called NeXT, focused on high-end machines for education and business. It struggled commercially and never achieved the success Jobs had hoped for. Around the same time, Jobs purchased a small computer graphics division from Lucasfilm for a relatively modest sum. He renamed it Pixar. For years, Pixar also struggled financially, and Jobs poured millions of his own money into keeping it alive, with no guarantee it would ever pay off. Everything changed in 1995 when Pixar released Toy Story, the world's first entirely computer-animated feature film. It was a massive success, both critically and commercially, and it turned Pixar into one of the most respected animation studios on the planet. Jobs, once again, was a very wealthy man. Meanwhile, back at Apple, things had gone from bad to worse. The company Jobs had built was now on the brink of bankruptcy, its products falling behind competitors, its leadership in constant turmoil. In 1997, in a stunning turn of events, Apple acquired NeXT, the very company Jobs had founded after being pushed out. As part of the deal, Jobs returned to Apple, first as an advisor and soon after as interim CEO of the company that had once fired him. Jobs moved quickly. He simplified Apple's confusing product lineup, cut unprofitable projects, and refocused the company on design and innovation. In 1998, Apple launched the iMac, a colorful, approachable computer that signaled Apple was back, and it sold in enormous numbers. From there, Apple entered one of the most remarkable runs of innovation in business history. In 2001, they launched the iPod, transforming the music industry. In 2007, they launched the iPhone, a product that would go on to redefine what a mobile phone even meant. In 2010, they launched the iPad, creating an entirely new product category. By the time these products had taken hold, Apple had transformed from a company on the edge of collapse into one of the most valuable companies in the entire world. In 2003, Jobs was diagnosed with a rare form of pancreatic cancer. He continued to lead Apple through years of treatment, remaining deeply involved in the company's most important product launches, even as his health declined. In 2005, he delivered a commencement speech at Stanford University that has since become one of the most viewed graduation speeches in history, where he spoke about facing death, following one's curiosity, and not settling for a life that isn't truly one's own. Steve Jobs passed away in October 2011, just one day after Apple unveiled the iPhone 4S. His legacy extends far beyond any single product. He fundamentally changed how the world thinks about design, simplicity, and the intersection of technology and everyday life. The company he built, lost, and rebuilt continues to shape the way billions of people communicate, work, and create. The story of Steve Jobs is, at its core, a story about failure and reinvention. He was publicly humiliated, removed from the very company he created, and instead of disappearing, he used those years to grow, to learn, and to come back stronger than before. From a garage in California to being fired from his own company, to building one of the most valuable businesses in history, Steve Jobs' story reminds us that failure is rarely the end. Sometimes, it's simply the beginning of something bigger. If you were fired from the company you built, what would you do next? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe for more journeys through the lives of the world's greatest entrepreneurs. Next time, we'll cover the story of a man who was nearly bankrupt 3 times before building one of the most influential companies in the world. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.